Good Monday makers, it's time for another community build roundup, and in this week's episode we're going to be checking out a chicken tractor barrier, a recumbent bike stand, an adjustable box stand, a raft frame, and a kennel roof. All kinds of really great builds and some cool things within them that we're going to check out. And remember, even if you're not making any of these exact same projects, you can still watch along and learn some techniques and some things that you can use in whatever it is that you're making. With that said, let's jump into today's builds. First up is the chicken tractor barrier put together by Richard. And this is really cool. He said they had an issue with animals getting in and attacking their chickens, and he built an ironclad enclosure, as you can see back here, with angle iron and some chain link fence. But he said it worked for the most part, except for foxes and coyotes, they were digging underneath. So that was kind of a problem. So what he did is he got maker pipe 1-inch T connectors and basically constructed these panels here that are rectangular, and they attach to the enclosure with some angle iron and some hinges that he made custom, which is really cool. And basically here is the panel that he constructed. It's just 2, 4, 6, 8 T connectors per panel, and it's just a simple rectangle with some supports across, and then he just secured chain link to those. And there's a close-up where he added some self-tapping screws into the T's, and basically just created 4 of these that attach to the outside of the chicken tractor. So now if they want to bury under the, this new barrier, if they want to dig underneath that, then they're going to have to go pretty far, and it's pretty much not possible. And he said he actually has a video of foxes trying to get underneath and are not able to, which is really cool. I'd love to see that video if you feel like sharing it. But that's really cool. So just a simple thing, just a nice addition to the chicken tractor that he already built, just to keep out foxes and coyotes and keep the chickens safe. And it's really cool. The hinges are awesome. I'd love to know more details about those if you feel like sharing that as well. But really cool, Richard. Thanks so much for sharing this. We really appreciate it. Next up is a recumbent bike stand from Fred. And this is really cool. You can see here he's got a recumbent bike, and he wanted to elevate it. If he wants to work on it or if he needs to change out some parts, he can put it on a stand here that he made and be able to work on it and have it at, chest or head height, which is really nice and makes it easier to work on, so you don't have to crouch down or lay down. You can just easily access it. He used various connectors. See a lot of T connectors. There's some 45-degree connectors, and then the adjustable 180, adjustable angle connector, basically just bracing the structure and adding some supports where needed. And that's really cool. And he shared a couple of things. He used bicycle seat post clamps to make the connectors quick release. And this is something we actually have on the website already available that you can use to replace the connector bolts if you want to make a quick release connection. I'll link those down below. And something else that I thought was cool is you can see here there's no nut or bolt holding this in place. What he actually did was get some rubber bands and just wrap those around the connector pieces to hold them in place while he's assembling the connector and getting the hardware in place and everything, which is a really simple technique that you can use to do that, and that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that tip. And here's the build again. You can see all put in place. Looks like he's got some casters, or I think this is like a cart you lay on if you're rolling underneath your car to do an oil change. And I think he said he is planning on putting casters in the bottom of this, so you can just roll this stand in and out of the garage and around the driveway whenever he needs to do some work on the recumbent bike. But really cool. Thanks so much for sharing this, Fred. Really great build. Next up is an adjustable box stand made for a manufacturing plant, and this is really cool. And you might be like, oh, it's just a box stand, just a few connectors. And it is, but it also has a hidden trick, which is really cool. You can see here that the telescoping clamps are being used at the bottom of the verticals here. This is 3/4-inch EMT with some nice bends and everything to hold the box, and then some cross braces with maker pipe T connectors and more conduit. And then at the bottom of this 3/4-inch vertical, he's using the maker pipe telescoping clamp with 1/2-inch EMT conduit sticking out of that, and this makes it so the stand can be adjusted height-wise. And you can just loosen the knob on all 4 of these telescoping clamps, and these 4 legs will drop down, and you can adjust the height, which is really cool. And he added some rubber pipe feet to the bottom as well. And it's a nice and simple build, nice and compact. As you can see, here is the box that they have sitting on the frame, and these bins, again, make it offset and slanted so they can reach into the box or drop things into it really easily. And that's really cool, and just some great things incorporated into this small build, but really awesome. Thanks so much for sharing this, Matthew. We love seeing it. Next up is some raft supports, some supports for a raft frame put together by Alex. You can see here he's got a nice inflatable raft, probably does some fly fishing and different things, and he built, I think he welded this framework, this U-shape frame together. And I think we get a close-up of it here. Yeah, you can see this looks like he's got some welds there. I think that might even be like the electrical off-the-shelf coupling that he welded in place. I'm not sure if that's true or not. That's what it looks like to me, but basically just welded the two halves of the frame together and has some nice bends in there. It looks like 1-inch EMT conduit. And then he just used the Maker Pipe 1-inch T connector just to add some supports from one side to the other. And you can see these supports going across are holding up some seats here, a cooler, and basically just anything he needs secured in place on the frame. He's got some supports going across and adding some support to that, which is really cool. Then he's got some straps holding this in place on the raft, and you can see some rubber pipe feet on the end there as well, which is a nice clean look and finishes off. And pretty simple. You know, besides welding, just a few connectors going back and forth, and it looks really great, and I'm sure he gets the job done. So really cool, Alex. Thanks so much for sharing that. Really great to see. Next up is something really cool from David, and this was the Triad SPCA, and they had this roof. Let's see if we go back here. I think this is the old one. You can see that the roof is falling in some places. It looks like it's just tarps kind of secured to the dog kennel, and not the greatest solution. And so they actually had some local Boy and Girl Scouts want to build a roof for the kennels as part of their project and a program they were doing, which is really cool. So they used EMT conduit and Maker Pipe connectors, as you can see here, to basically put together this wedge shape roof that just sits on top of the frame and then is secured in place that on top of the fencing here. And then they secured metal panels to that wedge-shaped roof piece, and it's got a nice slant to it, so snow and rain will go off. And because this is metal and no longer plastic tarps, they don't have to worry about it caving in as easily. As we saw in the first photo, you can see where some rain is going to pull up in here and probably fall down on the dogs, which stinks. So this is really cool, and really glad they shared this, and glad that Maker Pipe and Conduit could play a small part in helping the scouts build this roof and add something cool for the dogs and kind of keep them protected and everything. So really great. Thanks so much for sharing that, David. Really cool to see. And thanks to everybody for posting your builds. If you want to see any of these in more detail, they'll be linked down below. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.